As we move through life's chapters, there comes a moment when we wonder, why does everything feel so uncertain? Why do I feel like I'm constantly worrying about things I can't control? Perhaps you're lying awake at night thinking about your retirement savings, or maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by how fast the world seems to be changing around you, leaving you feeling disconnected and behind. Today, I want to share two ancient Chinese sayings that offer profound wisdom about finding peace in an uncertain world and discovering joy in the connections that surround us every day. These timeless words reveal how true contentment isn't about having more, but about seeing what we already possess with fresh eyes, and how every person we meet can become a teacher if we approach them with the right heart. But before we explore these teachings, consider this question. When you look at your life right now, do you see a series of problems to be solved? Or do you see a collection of gifts waiting to be appreciated? Hold that thought as we journey into today's ancient wisdom. Hello, and welcome back to Ancient Wisdom and Modern Mind. Let me begin with our first saying. Those who know contentment are always happy. In Chinese, this is beautifully expressed as Zhu Chan Luck. This profound phrase captures one of life's most liberating truths. Happiness doesn't come from getting more of what we want, but from wanting what we already have. In ancient China, this wisdom emerged from observing that the wealthiest emperors were often the most anxious, while humble farmers who had learned to find joy in simple pleasures lived with remarkable peace. But this saying goes far deeper than just being grateful. In Chinese philosophy, it became a pathway to freedom from the endless cycle of worry and wanting that can consume our later years. Just as a still pond reflects the sky perfectly, a contented heart reflects life's beauty clearly. The wisdom here addresses something we all face, the tendency to measure our happiness against what we lack rather than what we possess. Instead of this exhausting comparison, contentment offers us a different way of seeing our circumstances. Modern neuroscience supports this ancient insight beautifully. Researchers have discovered what they call the hedonic treadmill, our tendency to quickly return to baseline happiness levels despite positive changes in our circumstances. But studies also show that people who practice contentment have lower stress hormones, better sleep, and stronger immune systems. Most remarkably, brain scans reveal that grateful people show increased activity in areas associated with reward and satisfaction, not because their lives are objectively better, but because they've trained their minds to notice what's already good. Think about your own daily experience. Perhaps you wake up worried about your health, your finances, or whether your children are making good choices. Maybe you feel frustrated by technology that seems designed for younger minds, or overwhelmed by news that makes the world feel unsafe and chaotic. The wisdom of contentment doesn't ask you to ignore these real concerns. Instead, it invites you to ask a different question. while I'm addressing these challenges, what good things exist right alongside them? Maybe it's the fact that you woke up this morning in your own bed, in a home that's familiar and comfortable. Perhaps it's the cup of coffee that tastes exactly the way you like it, or the neighbor who waves when you check your mailbox. Or maybe it's the luxury of reading for pleasure, without the pressure of deadlines that once filled your days. This isn't about denying problems, it's about not letting problems eclipse the gifts that coexist with them. When we're constantly focused on what's wrong, we miss what's right. When we're always preparing for future troubles, we miss present graces. The ancient sages understood that contentment is actually a form of strength. When we're not consumed by anxiety about what we lack, we have more energy to address what truly needs our attention. When we're not constantly comparing our lives to others, we can make decisions based on our own values and circumstances. But here's where some of you might be thinking, that sounds peaceful, but doesn't contentment make us complacent? If I accept things as they are, how will I stay connected to the world around me? This brings us to our second saying, which reveals how contentment actually opens us to deeper connection. When three people walk together, there must be a teacher among them for me. In Chinese, 三人行必有我师. This profound statement from Confucius contains a revolutionary idea about learning and human connection. It suggests that every person we encounter, regardless of their age, background, or apparent expertise, has something valuable to teach us if we approach them with the right attitude. Think about the radical humility in this statement. Confucius, one of history's greatest teachers, was saying that he could learn from anyone. The young person struggling with questions he'd already answered, the elderly person sharing stories he'd heard before, the stranger with different beliefs, all of them potential teachers. This became a cornerstone of Chinese wisdom, the understanding that learning doesn't end with formal education, and teachers don't only exist in classrooms. Every interaction holds the possibility of insight if we bring curiosity instead of judgment. Modern research on successful aging consistently validates this ancient insight. Studies show that people who maintain what psychologists call a growth mindset throughout their lives report higher levels of happiness and stronger social connections. They see encounters with others as opportunities to discover something new rather than tests of what they already know. Neuroscience reveals that when we approach interactions with genuine curiosity, our brains release chemicals associated with pleasure and bonding. We literally feel better when we're learning from others, and others respond more warmly when they sense our authentic interest in their perspectives. But this saying addresses something even deeper than learning. It addresses loneliness and disconnection. When you believe that everyone has something to teach, every conversation becomes potentially meaningful. When you approach others as fellow travelers with unique insights, barriers begin to dissolve. Think about your recent interactions. Maybe it's the grocery store clerk who always remembers how you like your bags packed. What might they understand about attention to detail that you could appreciate more? Perhaps it's your grandchild trying to explain a video game. What might they be teaching you about patience with complexity or finding joy in challenges? Or maybe it's the neighbor from a different generation whose lifestyle seems so different from yours. What perspective might they offer about adapting to change? This mindset transforms ordinary encounters into opportunities for connection. Instead of feeling frustrated when someone explains something you don't immediately understand, you can feel curious about their way of thinking. Instead of feeling dismissed by people who seem too busy or too different, you can wonder what their urgency or differences might teach you about life's variety. The beautiful connection between these two sayings creates a powerful framework for finding peace and joy in daily life. Contentment with what we have gives us the emotional stability to learn from others, and learning from others keeps us connected to life's endless richness and surprise. Together, they suggest that this stage of life isn't about withdrawal from an uncertain world. It's about engagement from a place of inner peace rather than constant anxiety. When we're not desperately worried about what we lack, we can be present enough to notice what others offer. When we're not trying to prove our relevance, we can be humble enough to admit what we don't know and curious enough to learn it. When we're grateful for what we have, we can celebrate what others have without feeling diminished. The ancient Chinese understood that wisdom comes not from having all the answers, but from maintaining the right questions. What can I appreciate about this moment? And what might this person teach me? These questions transform daily life from a series of problems to solve into a series of gifts to discover. So today, I want you to consider two practical experiments. First, what three things in your current life could you appreciate more deeply? Maybe it's your health, even if it's not perfect, the fact that you can still see a sunset or taste your favorite food. Perhaps it's your freedom to make choices about how to spend your time, even if you sometimes feel overwhelmed by those choices. Or maybe it's the accumulated wisdom that allows you to see situations with perspective that takes decades to develop. How might intentionally appreciating these gifts change your daily experience? Second, who in your life could you approach with fresh curiosity this week? Maybe it's a family member whose different choices have created distance between you. Perhaps it's someone from a different generation who seems to speak an entirely different language. Or maybe it's a service person you encounter regularly but have never really seen as an individual with their own insights. What might you discover if you approach them with genuine interest in learning rather than judgment or indifference? Remember, these aren't exercises in forced positivity or fake enthusiasm. They're experiments with ancient wisdom that has helped millions of people find peace and connection across centuries of change and uncertainty. The key insight from both sayings is that happiness and connection aren't dependent on external circumstances being perfect. They're available to us right now, in this moment, with these people, in these circumstances, if we know how to look. You don't need to change your situation to begin experiencing this wisdom. You just need to change your lens from scarcity to gratitude, from knowing to wondering, from judgment to curiosity. Thank you for joining me today on Ancient Wisdom and Modern Mind. If these ideas resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more timeless insights that speak to contemporary challenges. And I'd love to hear your reflections in the comments. What's one thing in your life you could appreciate more deeply starting today? Who might you approach with fresh curiosity this week? Your insights help build a community of wisdom and connection. Until next time, remember, contentment opens the heart to wonder, and wonder keeps the heart open to life's endless gifts. As you reflect on these stories, here's a moment of calm to carry with you.